The Bellas are back and their pitch is far from perfect. Pitch Perfect 3, directed by Trish C., produced by Elizabeth Banks. This movie brings back the Bellas for the third and hopefully final time. Anna Kendrick as Becca, Rebel Wilson as Fat Amy, Brittany Snow is back, Anna Camp is back, Haley Steinfeld is back as Emma, Elizabeth Banks, you got John Michael Higgins, John Lithgow's in this movie, and the rest of the Bellas are in this. So let's talk about this movie and how I feel about it. The plot of this movie is the Bellas are now out in the real world. They have gotten jobs. Some of them have gotten their dream jobs. Some of them have not gotten their dream jobs, but they are all getting a taste of the real world. Becca is now a music producer like she has always wanted to be. One of the other Bellas is trying to become a veterinarian. Another Bella is running her own food truck. Rebel Wilson is pretending to be Fat Amy Winehouse. What they are realizing is the life that they are getting in the real world is not exactly what they thought it is going to be. They are realizing that what they dreamed their lives were going to be outside of college and now graduated is not all it's cracked up to be, and they are wishing that they could get back together. Becca decides to quit her job as a music producer because of integrity, since the client that she's working for is not that good of a singer, and she doesn't like working for somebody that is not a good singer and for a record label that is not treating her right. Well, wouldn't that make more sense to try and find work as music producer for a different label, I guess, instead of just quitting your dream job altogether? And the rest of the Bellas are not doing so well out in the real world. So they get back together and realize they want to sing together again, hoping to get back that magic. One of the Bellas gets this idea, hey, let's do singing for the troops at the USO, since one of the Bellas' father can get them in on the tour for the troops. So they get in on the tour and they realize they got to do a competition against these other bands. Only these other bands have instruments and can sing. So they are going up against more harder talent now. One of the bands is an all-girl group led by Ruby Rose. And when they go up against these bands that can play real instruments and everything, they feel like they may not be able to beat these bands and win the competition. We also find out that there's a villain in this movie played by John Lithgow, and that's pretty much the movie. I'll get into a little bit more into this film as I talk about the good things and the bad things about this film. Let's get this right out of the open right now. I hate this movie. I liked the first Pitch Perfect. I thought it was a very surprise hit. The music in the first movie was great. The acting was good. The chemistry of the cast was great. Anna Kendrick was really good in that first movie. I really liked the comedy from Elizabeth Banks and John Michael Higgins making fun of the Bellas. And I even liked Rebel Wilson a little bit in that first movie. And one of the things I liked about Rebel Wilson in that first movie is that you got her in small doses. But unfortunately, as the second movie came out and the third movie, her screen time got bigger and bigger. And that's one of the problems with this movie, is that she gets even more screen time in this film, to the point that she has her own subplot. In the second movie, she had her own romantic subplot, which I didn't mind too much, but it was a bit overbearing. And in this film, she gets her own subplot because she's connected to the villain, since the villain is her father. played by John Lithgow. The movie opens with Fat Amy saving the Bellas since they are stuck in this boat, and the Bellas are singing this song Toxic by Britney Spears, and then Fat Amy jumps down from the ceiling of the boat. An explosion happens and the Bellas are jumping off the boat just as the explosion is happening. And then it cuts to 3 weeks earlier in order to tell you how they got into that situation. Which, right from there, I knew that this movie was going to be stupid. I figured the movie was going to be stupid from the trailers, but I knew the movie was going to be even worse once I saw that opening. Another problem with this film is the fact that a couple of the characters have regressed from what you hoped they were going to be from the first movie, or with Becca Stanfield's case from the second movie, since she was introduced in the second film. Becca was introduced as this woman that wanted to become a music producer. Well, now that she gets her dream job and becomes a music producer, she quits it because the job that she has is breaking her integrity, where she could just solve that problem by just trying to find another record label to hire her as a music producer instead of quitting her dream job of becoming a music producer altogether, really. Then there's Emma, Haley Steinfeld's character. One of the main things about her character is that she had the ability to write her own music. When you see her in this movie, you find out that she's not doing that anymore. She has given up writing her own music for, I think, a short time because she wants to focus on her studies mostly. So the Bellas that she's now leading in school are now just singing cover songs mostly. Really more so than singing original songs that she writes. And the romantic subplots in this movie that happen, got 3 romantic subplots, I think. Becca gets a new love interest in the film. Lily, the Asian Bella, gets a love interest in the movie, and one of the other Bellas ends up falling for a soldier in the movie. Those 3 romantic subplots I did not care about at all. I didn't care whether they were going to get together with these love interests or not, because they just didn't really matter to me that much, and they really didn't do a good job of creating chemistry with these interests really either, so it just didn't really matter to me. Really, the only thing I liked about this movie was the music. The music was pretty good. And the riff-off scene was okay, but even that was a bit of a disappointment compared to the riff-off scenes from the first 2 movies. Because the categories was stupid, like zombie apocalypse or singers that you didn't know were Jewish. That is just stupid categories. It's like they couldn't come up with anything, so they were just running out of ideas for rip-off categories, really. And that's one of the problems with this movie. This movie really felt like they had no ideas for the plot of this film, and that they were just putting things in as they went along. The comedy wasn't really all that good either. And then there's Elizabeth Banks and John Michael Higgins, the comedy from them as the commentators. They are written in this time as stalkers to the Bellas. They are following the Bellas 24/7 practically, because they want to create a documentary about how the Bellas are doing out in the real world, and it turns them into annoying characters more so than funny characters, really. The only joke about them comes up at the end of the movie when you find out how well they did recording a lot of the footage that they did. So I hated those 2 as well. Those 2 were just so annoying to me. Really, this movie is not that good. I did like John Lithgow in the film. I thought he was a pretty good villain, but overall, this movie sucks. I hated this film. Honestly, do not see this movie, especially if you're a fan, because I think you're going to be disappointed by this film. So I'm going to give this movie a D, as in don't see it.